Okay, this is me. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Is that okay? Okay, for level 1, 2, 3 from the box. So, welcome to the Circuito de Jerez. This is the first of 4 days of racing, 2 days for the national championships, and then we go to the world finals on Saturday and Sunday. 2 races apiece for the races for the series from Asia, from North America, and from Europe. Great circuit here. Has been sitting in these rolling hills outside Jerez de la Frontera for more than 40 years now. Very popular, and it's very technical. My name is Bruce Jones, and alongside me I've got Jack Bartholomew, race driver, who's been here, seen it and done it, but it really is quite a trick, this circuit.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really technical track. In the last sector, you've got a lot of long, fast flowing corners. That's why it used to be used a lot for the Formula 1 testing, because you have a lot of corners that rely on the aerodynamics. It's quite tricky to pass around here, from what I remember from 5 years ago. So you have to really try and pressure your opponents into making mistakes. So it's you have to be quite tactical with how you drive your race around here.
Well, it's always been a tricky one, thinking back to the famous Formula 1 Grand Prix back in the late 80s, early 90s. But we have another factor. Today, the first of 4 here at Jerez, and rain fell overnight, a little bit yesterday afternoon. How is this going to affect it? When we came here this morning, I think the European Series cars were out. Great big tails of spray behind them. The track has dried out, but as you look at it here, under that amazing sort of flying saucer building over the start-finish straight, the track looks dry, but it's not fully. We can see down on the bottom of the right-hand of the screen, there are patches that are still wet. What would you do if you were a driver or team chief thinking of tyres? Would you go for slicks, or would you go for wets?
If I was driving, it really depends on where you're starting. If you're starting at the front and trying to play it safe, you'd probably go wets. As a pro driver, you'd probably go for slicks. If you're running a team in a Pro-Am car or an Am car, you'd probably put your guys out on wets, because in this series you don't have tyre ovens. It's the middle of November. It's still a little bit patchy and greasy out there, so it really depends who you've got in the car.
Well, there are the figures there. It's the 90% humidity that is the thing I noticed. Track temperature down at 16, air temperature at 14, so you're going to have to work it quite hard to get heat in the tyres. But the fact is, from our commentary position, looking across the main straight to above the pits, is dark, dark sky. Behind us, on the grandstand side, it's much lighter. So the teams have got to have their meteorology equipment working to work out not just if the rain's coming, but when. The race is 50 minutes long. Will it hit for the first driver, for the second, or will they make a miss this morning?
It looks like it could rain at any moment, so it's always, thing is with tyre choice, is always one of those gambles. You either pull off an absolute masterclass, or you can get it totally wrong and be caught out. If I was racing, I'd probably be starting on slicks, work it really hard on the 2 formation laps to the grid.
Well, talk about working it hard. We've already had a spinner. It's all of that. Super Chai, we're aboard Bonchong, and he's running in the LC class. Of course, 4 classes of racing. So he was just pushing to see how much grip there was, and around about turn 7 there, he found there wasn't as much as he expected. But hey, no damage done. But a lot of the cars doing that classic thing, out, come in through the pit lane. You're not allowed to drive through the grid and continue. They need to feel what it's like. They watched the European Series cars doing their qualifying this morning, but this is their first time on the track this morning, so it's all about what they're feeling through the seat of their pants and through their fingertips. Here's Andre Couto, very experienced driver from Macau. He shouldn't have too much trouble getting used to things.
No, definitely. You use these 2 laps to the grid to really feel each individual corner, the braking zones, make sure your TC and ABS settings are dialed in correctly, and just try and generate as much heat as possible in the tyres and the brakes, because when you sit on the grid, if you generate enough heat, the brakes will then continue to heat the tyres. If you don't, the tyres will start to cool down, so you really have to push hard. But as we saw, it's easy to find the limit, especially on the cold sort of, polished slicks before you take that top layer off.
Now, I think an important thing here, Jack, is the fact I mentioned the fact we've got the series from North America, the series from Europe, but the Asian drivers, the ones coming to the grid for the first of the races here, bear in mind the track temperature here was only 16 degrees. They're accustomed to track temperatures of 50, 60 degrees when they're racing. And when their season started at Sepang in May, I was out there and really enjoyed the racing, but that is super, super hot. So it's another skill set you have to reach for.
Definitely. I remember from my 2 years in Asia, it's super hot and humid in most of the regions. There's that element of you've got to just push so much harder to generate the heat and keep the heat in the tyres. So especially for the AM drivers, it can be quite tricky this time of year in Europe.
Now, one thing we should explain is that the 4 classes, Pro, Pro-Am, that's sort of explanatory. You've got a driver who's an Am with a Pro taking the other half of the race. You've got the Ams and then the Lamborghini Cup. They're all denoted, in fact, as I say that, people just slightly get in the way. Top left-hand side of the windscreen as we look at the cars is a colour flash. The red flash is for the Pros. The Pro-Ams have a yellow flash. Here are the graphics. Am in green and Lamborghini Cup in the blue. So we'll also see those on the doors. But it's something to look out for. But as you pointed out, we have races within races within each of these races, 50 minutes long. Some of the drivers do the entire race. They still have to have a pit stop. And the combined times from pit in to pit out, if you're in a 2-driver lineup, so you have a driver change, it's 86 seconds here. And it's 3 seconds longer, 89 seconds for the drivers who do it solo. So that balances out. Slicks, as we can see down there, the Hankook Slicks, brand new set. And that's car 208 that's been going very well in the championship. Arrow Racing, Selim Rafiq and Jasmine Jafar. That's the car on pole position, which is on the pit wall side of the track. But of course, we have wet weather tyres lined up alongside, waiting until the last possible moment to decide which side to jump to.
Yeah, I thought that was quite risky. I see absolutely brand new tyres. If it was me personally, I would have done my 2 laps to the grid on the slicks to see where the grip is at and then take them off. And by all means, if the driver then says, OK, I need wets, it's too much, fair enough. But if he's driven around on wets and then he's got literally 1 lap to just scrub the tyres, he will probably struggle for the first couple of laps of the race.
Interesting shot there, looking at the mechanics and the crew chiefs from all the other championships taking a look at what's happening out on the track, because it could be wet for their races later today. The next one in line is the North American Series race. AMSA Motorsports and a whole load of the other crews taking a look. You've got to learn every little item, and just beforehand you were watching one of the qualifying sessions from behind the commentary position as the cars sweep through turns 4 and 5. Passing on knowledge to the crews, it's every little small difference can make the world, can't it?
100%. You sometimes have with tracks, parts will dry quicker than others, so it's quite important if you can have people all over the place to kind of see different sections of the track, check the curbs, you know, white lines, all these sort of things can really make a difference.
Yeah, so lots of information being passed down to the drivers on the grid. Car 265, one of the ones from DW Evans Limited, that's Dan Wells, who is the championship leader. His championship lead was cut by 1 point yesterday because he didn't take pole, but he still has a 9-point lead in the championship. 2 races here to complete the Asian series, and Saturday, Sunday is the World Finals. But so for Dan Wells, he's been there, seen it, done it. But maximum points for victory, 15, and 1 for pole. He hasn't got the 1 for pole, but if he gets the 15 points in the bank, that puts him in a very, very good position. He's starting on the 2nd row of the grid, 3rd fastest. So, you know, with his experience, and he's got Emilien Card, very good French driver racing with him. That's a really strong pairing. So it's about keeping out of trouble. Can you gain a place into the first corner? It's balancing the risk, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. When you get to the business end of the championship, you've really got to start to think about points.
Well, it's now looking really quite busy down on the grid, just looking to see what we've got lined up down there. And here is our person on the grid, Marietta Evans. It's not raining, you should be smiling. You are.
I'm indeed smiling because welcome to the Super Trofeo Asia grid, where, as you said, the rain so far is holding up. And I'm next to car 232, which has been super consistent this season so far, 8 podiums, but not a win yet. However, today they are on pole for the pro category. Let's see if we can catch up with Charles Leung in the car to take it to the track for the first stint. Charles, first of all, how are you expecting conditions to be out there today?
It's going to be a tricky one, and I think everyone is having the same situation, but I think the track is quite fun with this type of tricky conditions. So, yeah, let's see what I can do. So, yeah.
8 podiums this season. Can you turn this pole into that much long-awaited win?
Sorry, what?
Can you turn this pole into that win that you have been looking for all season?
Yeah, for sure we do try our best, and we all know we have the pace to win, so yeah, just have to put everything together really and mistakes. So yeah.
And this is Miki Koyama, who will be taking the car for stint 2. Good luck, guys. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Marietta, and good to see that Miki Koyama is totally positive we're going to win. But 50 minutes of racing, the pit stop at which Miki will take over. It's not a very long run to the first corner here at Jerez. That's something that really, really focuses. Almost the distance from under this building, we're going underneath now to look at the grid. You go back the other way, it's only about the same distance up to the right-hander, which is on the crest of a rise. It's a very, very tricky corner.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught out there, miss your braking point, and you know, miss your apex. You know, when you add in the weather, potentially cold slicks, you know, it might be, if you're actually starting on the left side, is better because you're on the traditional racing line. It might be a little bit more greasy offline. There's all these things you've got to think about, and you know, when you're driving, you're trying to do 1,000 things at once.
And of course, if you're on the outside line and the pole side, first, third, fifth, etc., start on the pit wall side, that you'll be on the outside line when you get to the first corner. We all know if someone up the inside line gets it wrong, you could be part of that. But let's hope everybody gets it absolutely right. You can see some of the co-drivers standing down on the grid, but they will be going away soon. There's not much more they can do until they take it over at the pit stops. But for the crews there, they've got their wet weather tyres waiting down on the grid. Importantly, though, looking across the track, there are some flags above the pit lane. They are hanging straight down. There is no wind bringing anything in just yet, but who knows what's going to happen in the next hour. The race is 50 minutes. The cars will go back round again, and we'll get them back for the start. But let's go back down to Marietta, who has another interview down on the grid.
And with the overall poleman, Yasemin Jafar, can you make this your 3rd win this season?
I hope so. I think we've got a good package, and we've been working hard for this, and I'm really excited for the race.
You are the pro, the golden driver, the more experienced driver in your pro team. How much did you know this racetrack, and how much used are you to driving in these changing conditions?
I did race before here a long time ago in Renault All Series. It feels great being back here, and the World Finals has been a great event, but we've been working hard, wanting to achieve that first win, but we'll see how the race unfolds.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks, Marietta. Very experienced driver, Yasmin Jafar. Raced big single-seaters as well, lots of GT3s in particular, so any bit of experience is welcome. Pointing out, though, that is a Pro-Am car on pole position. His fellow Malaysian teammate, Selim Rafiq, is, you know, way short in experience. But, of course, with a Pro-Am thing, Jack, it's about passing the knowledge, the little bits of things that make a difference to bring Selim forward. And he's certainly made good strides, but you know the role that Jasmine has to play from pole is get as far clear as he can. Get in the lead, stay in the lead at the first corner, and use his advantage and build a cushion.
Yeah, essentially, when you're in a Pro-Am car, you've got to forget the whole grid. You've got to worry about the people in your class. So his job is to try and get away from all the other Pro-Am cars, build a gap, so it means there's less pressure on his teammate when he gets in probably just after the halfway point.
Okay, thank you very much, Jack. And let's go down to Marietta. Very busy on the grid.
Let's catch up now with the leader in Pro-Am, Andre Couto. Andre, you are tied in points with your rivals for the title, and at the moment they are behind you on the grid. How important is to finish ahead of them to break that tie?
Well, it's very important, right? Whoever wins, wins. So we are all in, and let's go for it.
How are you expecting track conditions to be today with all the rain we had before?
Well, it's very tricky conditions at the moment. It seems like we all put slicks now, and I don't really know it's a good choice at the moment, but we have no option at the moment, so we just have to focus on the race and do our best.
Good luck, thank you.
Thank you, and that's the second car in the Pro-Am grouping on the grid. Because the pole-sitting car is Pro-Am car. 4th place on the grid for Andre Couto there for the Madness Racing team. Actually, he's no longer leading the championship because he was equal on points. He and his teammate Jason Chen, equal with Thomas Yuli and Nicholas Perilati. And they're behind them on the grid, but because we had pole position for Thomas Yuli Perilati car in their class, they get the extra point. 15 points for a win, 12, 10, 8, 6 as you go down, plus that point for pole position. So we can do number crunching, but that is a very tight category at the moment for the Pro-Am class. Working our way down the grid, car 263, that's the SQDA Grit Motorsport entry. One of the solo drivers, the Korean racer Changwoo Brian Lee, as he's called. And again, 3 seconds longer at the pit stop for him. But of course, you have the advantage. You've had a warm-up, you've done the first part of the race, but you also know exactly what the track conditions are. And in a race like this, it's one thing telling a driver on the driver change, but it's going to take them a few corners to really get the feel. And of course, the level of grip is not uniform around the circuit either, so they've got to spend probably that first lap just getting the feel in.
Yeah, for sure. It's you can lose 3 seconds so easily, so especially in the AM category. I think if you're driving on your own, it can be a real advantage in these conditions.
Okay, let's go back down because Marietta has pounced again.
And I'm with Brian Lee, who is having a sensational season in the AM category so far this year. But how much do you know this racetrack and how much do you like racing here?
Actually, this is the first track I never tried before. Yeah, so it's quite tricky. It's I'm not familiar with the European track, but it's quite fun, and there are so many high-speed track, and also, yeah, I'm very look forward to win the race. Yeah.
Amazing. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, as the World Challenge travels around, it was here 5 years ago. Obviously, COVID sort of affected things for a while, but for drivers like Brian Lee there, it's all part of the experience. Crossing the world to race a car, you know, in conditions you don't, on a circuit you don't. But this high shot shows just how narrow the Jerez circuit is. It's old school. It was built in the 1980s, and of course the safety facilities on modern circuits means the main straights are wider and longer. You think of ones built later like Sepang, another decade later, really wide run down to that first corner. But here, you're quite right. You've got to plan your move, and you've probably got to spend several laps just looking to see how the driver's behaving ahead, particularly in changeable conditions. Are they good on the tighter corners or whatever? All these factors have to go in, but it's part of the challenge. And for the lucky ones here, they'll race today. They'll complete their regional series tomorrow, completing 6 two-race rounds. And then, of course, the lucky ones will go through to the 2 days of racing for the World Finals to take the sort of ultimate Lamborghini Super Trofeo honours. Again, great to see the race liveries on these cars, and each series they sort of seem to have different types of colours that go with them. I noticed quite a few of the North American cars running sort of army khaki green. It doesn't seem like a fast colour, but out in Asia, the cars are probably the most colourful of the lot. Lots of reds and whites and golds. Car 208, that's been one near the sharp end all season. That's Selim Rafiq and Jasmine Jafar. It's very much on the sharp end because it's there on pole position. They didn't do the opening round of the series, which cost them a little bit. They missed the Malaysian round, slightly ironic. Sepang for a Malaysian crew, but this high shot as we sweep down the grid, of course they're not quite evenly spaced there, but they will be when they come around to the start. The race is 50 minutes, and between 20 minutes into the race and 30 minutes, i.e. the middle 10 minutes out of the 50, is when you must come in, report to the pits for your pit stop. 86 seconds from pit in to pit out for the 2 driver crews, and the ones who are going solo, 3 seconds longer for them, 89 seconds. So of course it's suddenly busy down in the pit lane. This is the moment I really like, Jack, when you look down on the grid and everyone has been cleared away. You can see the cars lining it up. It means the race is getting closer and closer to happening. And there we have quite a good lead car, Lamborghini Urus. I remember the first one of those I saw, I thought that looks impressive, and then it took off from the front of a grid, I thought, and it sounds even better. And it's been a real mark for lots of GT series around the world, certainly with the SRO championships, but obviously for the Super Trofeo, of course you have to have a Lamborghini leading you around, and it's really won a lot of friends. Car 205 looking down, that is run by the Malaysian brothers, Haziq and Hari Zariel O, who run for Fortis Racing Team by Absolute Racing, absolute huge team out in Asia, running all sorts of series. They'll be busy at Macau as well this weekend. That's racing these days. Sometimes you have many things on the same weekend, so you pro drivers have to get your plane ticket and keep moving. But right, just getting ready for the start. 50 minutes, and this is the first of 2 races of the final round of the 2024 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Race Series from Asia. All set. Who is going to pull it off today? On pole position, we've got Jasmine Jafar for Arrows Racing alongside Charles Leong. We heard from both of them down on the grid. We've got the 4 classes, the Pros, the Pro-Ams, the AMs and the Lamborghini Cup, all with their own battles to fight for. Not one of those classes has been settled yet. 1 or 2 of them may be today, but I think majority are going to go right down to the final round on Friday here, the final day of the Asian series, the North American series and the European series as well. 83 cars across those 3 championships, showing just what a success Lamborghini Super Trofeo is. Right, this is the point where things start to get exciting. The engines fired up, last people. Each car is allowed one mechanic until the final moment, and then they have to go through that gap in the pit wall. It will be sealed up. The cars will go around for a formation lap, and then we'll go racing. This is the view towards the first corner. Very slight rise, but it's a sharpish right, and it's not wide. When you go beyond, there's a thing called gravel. You don't get out of that very often.
Yeah, it's definitely something that a lot of the guys won't be used to is when you come from all the Grand Prix circuits in Asia. You know, they're all fantastic facilities, lots of runoff, very safe. It's amazing, but there's nothing quite like coming and putting the car on the limit on an old school track. Being from the UK, we've got lots of old school tracks, and it's amazing. There's nothing quite like going around Brands GP, you know, full tilt on a good day. You know, so it's definitely an additional thing for these guys to have to adapt to.
Right, thanks very much, Jack. Your thoughts, and I certainly concur with that. When you nail the lap at Alton Park or Brands Hatch Grand Prix, you know you can pat yourself on the back. Right, 17 cars coming out to play. They'll do so again tomorrow, but for the pit crews, of course, the first thing they're looking at now, and they've been looking at for the last half hour, is any further rain coming in. It stopped falling at about 9, just 10 past 9 this morning. Quite a lot of track action driving that. We've got a spinner from quite high up the grid, trying to work out which one that is. We'll focus in. We talked about how narrow turn 1 is. It's car 211. That's Arrows Racing, Gavin Huang, and he shares that with Jonathan Chicotto. That is normally starting relatively close to the front of the grid. That has got to be corrected. For Gamma Racing, that's a huge disappointing. Hopefully he can get it and join the back of the field. But let's hope he doesn't do a Lance Stroll and go off into the gravel, having had his problem. But come on, don't go. Oh, this is the horrible bit. Can I go in the gravel? I've got to, but don't put any more than one wheel. Okay, got away with that. You will go racing. But yeah, from the back of the pack, of course.
Yeah, you'll be okay going through the gravel slowly. It's when you go through quickly and it all goes into the air vents and you can damage the radiators of the car and block things and brake ducts, all this sort of thing. So generally in a race or practice session, if you go through the gravel quickly, you come in and the mechanics will give you a quick once over, and you know sometimes you have to have the floor off.
Well, let's go through the grid, and that was from 8th position that went spinning. Jasmine Jafar and pole for Arrows Racing, leading the Prime class, alongside Charles Leong for Iron Links Theodore Racing. Row number 2, Dan Wells, always at the front end. He's the overall championship leader. Andre Couto, also in the Prime class, will start from 4th for the Madness Racing team. Going on to row number 3, Stephen Hong, also for Madness Racing team, in the AM class. And then a Finnish racer. They often seem to race out in the Asian series. Nicolas Pertilati. And then we moved to the Korean racer, Lee, SQDA, Grit Motorsport, and Gavin Huang. He's the one who went for the spin, car number 211, running in the Pro class. So expect that's going to be a story, him coming back up the order. Then one of our 2 female racers in this race, that's Kat, in car number 209. Liwatana Valagul is something that's rather harder to say. And then we move on down the grid. Now we're in the worlds of the AM racers further back. Vortex Racecraft and Arrows Racing. And that's Howard Luo and Johnson Huang. And another nose into the barrier. Car number 283 has had a little bit of a slip up. Arrows Racing, that's Dr. Ma, and he was going to be due to be starting from last position. Hopefully that can get back, but he's sitting on grass that's wet, and that looks as been a very, very low-speed loop. But what are we going to do? I'm going to have to wait and see if there are any signals like, will there be a start delayed? Because I don't know if we've got anything going just now. So, oh gosh, do you feel that will be start delayed? Because that has to be removed from there.
Yeah, he's parked in an unsafe position. He should be able to get out from there, but yeah. If he just gets reversed and he's gentle on the clutch, doesn't dig himself into the grass, he doesn't look like he's hit the... Oh, we have had a crash.
Oh, now, yes, I know. Quick and fast. This is Kamlung. This is Bertram Lau, who has just looped that around as well.
He's gone in hard.
Front end damage you can see on his front left corner.
Yeah, and the wing. He's gone in and actually hit the wall with two corners. So he's probably had a spin and caught it on the front, and then the car's turned on the wall. So he probably won't be continuing on from that.
Well, what disappointment there. We've got an extra formation lap. You may have noticed that. Absolutely the sensible thing to do, because Dr. Ma's car needed to be put back onto the circuit. And, you know, these would have been tiny little errors, but they just compounded. For a lot of the teams there, they just need to find out, you know, what's the state of the car? Have you damaged it at all? In the case of 268 and Kamlung Racing, Bertram has damaged that. Bertram Lau and Wear on Tan, his new teammate for this weekend, will probably not be getting a race. But however, what would you do? Extra formation lap. If the car can be brought back, repair it, you might as well go out and get practice laps, might you? Because the second race is tomorrow. You can retrieve points, but again, that's why it's so important to get the feel of the cars. So they go now onto their second formation lap, which is actually good news for most of the drivers. Another lap to get the feel of the track. There is the message. Very nice, clear signal. The team chiefs will have indicated it's up at turn 4, which is where the rotation has been. The yellow flag is still up there. And we will just wait. This is turn 1, looking up to turn 2 at the top of your screen. And then it's a little kink, which is just at the end of the blue and white banding on the outside. That's turn 3. Turn 4 almost behind our commentary position. It's the first probably tricky corner. You sense as you turn left, you want to open it up, but the track is narrow, and this is possibly some of the damage that occurs from running a little bit wide there. Yeah, it's a combination of the circuit being old school, fast and flowing, and with this weather, especially for these Asian drivers trying to, you know, adapt to the kind of changeable conditions. One mistake, I think we're going to get a replay of it now. Okay, this is coming into turn 4.
Probably
getting
on the curb, I reckon.
In the tyres.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, well, that was between turn 3 and 4. That's actually quite heavy damage. And of course, the wet grass, it actually slopes down. There's no retardation there, and the first thing that slowed the car, but unfortunately, front and rear end damage. So again, that was just getting that feel. There was no particular speed, and it's just a lack of heat in the tyres there. Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes these things just happen when you're on cold tyres and trying to, you know, get a feel. It's easy to just over push. You know, sometimes the AM drivers can have a moment and they're just slightly slow to react to the, you know, to catch it, or they overreact. Sometimes they have a little slide at the rear and they'll overcorrect it. You know, sometimes it's the smallest of mistakes that can lead to such a devastating consequence. Yeah, good to see. By looks things, Dr. Ma got going. Should be the back of the queue. He was the 283, the blue-white Arrows racing car we saw with its nose by the barrier. But for the main players, they're just going around, gaining that knowledge, getting the feeling of what is under them in terms of grip. It's not a lot, but it's how they then harness that. And car 256, that was Nicolas Bertolatti we just saw going across the screen. But these are nervous moments for the second driver. Will they get a race? Will the car be returned to them in the pit lane? I would think so. But bear in mind, we were just discussing this earlier, Jack, that the series that probably has the least rain in it across 2024 has been the North American one. Certainly at Shanghai back in September. I mean, Asia can do rain when it does rain. It doesn't do rain like this where you have a greasy track. It does full-on monsoon, and the cars were just, you know, the drivers were passengers. Here is another thing they need to learn, that sort of intermediate condition. Yeah, definitely. In Asia, it's definitely all or nothing. You can almost guarantee in Sepang it will rain once a day, sort of 4 p.m, and it will come down like you've never seen before anywhere else. But then within half an hour, the track is dry and it's warm again. So it's just another thing for these guys to adapt to and learn, is that you can have a greasy track, you can have, you know, what we would say is full wet, greasy, and then there's that whole in-between of the drying process. It can be quite slow. Right, a little graphic that's important to notice. Top left-hand side of your screen, the clock actually started counting down from 50 minutes at the start of this second formation lap. So it's working its way down. Jasmine Jafar here, just concentrating, just focusing on, you know, he's in the best position to start this race. And as long as he gets decent grip away from the grid and just turns into, oh, sorry, it's a car from second on the grid. Yes, I got my helmets confused. That's getting used to what is lying out there ahead of them. But it's one thing going around at this sort of pace, and it's quite another when you've got to commit to the pace you're going to need to go racing. So 50-minute race. We're already ticking our way down through below that number to 46.5 minutes remaining. Pit stop in the middle, and the job of the drivers now is to run in 2x2 formation. The pace car pulls off in before turn 15, which is the left-hand hairpin, the final corner of the lap, and then let's see what unfolds as we go down to the first corner. Will it be Jasmine Jafar, or will it be Charles Leong? Leong's on the right-hand side of our screen. Now on the left-hand side, he's on the side away from the pit lane. They're waiting to look at the lights on the starting gantry. Come on, when are you going to turn that switch? Red will go to green. They're waiting, nice intermediate length of hold, and that's a great shot, brilliant shot on TV, and a great start from the outside of the front row. Leong looks like he's got his nose in front, but I'll tell you what, Jasmine Jafar has blocked off. He's not only fallen from first to second, second to third, but maybe going to go down to fourth place. Oh, and a twitch on the exit, and the driver who thought he got it now from the outside the front row, Charles Leong, lose out, and I think that's Dan Wells going around the outside. If it's let's take a look. You know what? Neat and tidy. I think we've got everybody through. That was Dr. Ma at the back, and Dan Wells hanging the tail out, and a few cars getting very wide. You don't want to be doing that out of turn 3, because then you're going to get some wet curbing there. So far, so good, but that was a real dilemma at start. Jasmine Jafar bound down in 4th position from pole. That will be disappointing for him.
Yeah, just think he got a little bit caught out, maybe a little bit overcautious. Better to be overcautious than obviously attack and have problems. But Dan Wells just showing his experience, and especially coming from the UK, he's used to this sort of weather, you know. So I know he lives in Asia now, but he knows what he's doing in these conditions.
Okay, of course, in the case of Jasmine Jafar, who's fallen down to 4th position, he just got to remember he's in a Pro-Am battle. He's probably the lead car in the Pro-Am. He's actually got an Am ahead of him, which is car 277, which is Stephen Hong. Shiji Hong, and now we're starting to see Jasmine Jafar fighting back, and he's going to get around the inside of Hong. He should be able to do that, but he's got to be patient, as you pointed out, Jack. Some of the moves you have to have going for quite a few corners before you can complete them there, but there as they go up towards turn number 9, the deal is done. This is the battle for 3rd position, as shown in the graphic there. What drivers don't want to do is make the circuit a great deal wider by running over the curbing on the outside, because that's going to be wetter than the track. Paint and rain. Famously, Nigel Mansell, Monaco, eons ago, when he lost the lead by hitting a white line. But our first 2 drivers really starting to pull clear, which is very good news, not just for them, but for their teammates.
Yeah, for sure. It's always great when you're handed the car at the front of the race with a gap. The only thing I will say about the paint and curbs, because this is a MotoGP track, the painted curbs and surfaces are done with a gritty kind of paint. So generally you can use them even in the wet and slippery conditions, which is just another thing that you have to do your research before coming to the race as a driver.
Yeah, and also MotoGP curbs, they're slightly more level, much flatter. 610 Racing, that's run by Absolute, that's working its way forward. But up front, Dan Wells leading by 1.5 seconds. Good, solid lap from 3rd to 2nd to 1st by turn number 2. And Charles Leon 1.4 seconds back, and then 3 seconds back to Jasmine Jafar. But Jasmine started on position. He's working his way up the order as we expected. And so we obviously lost the 1 car before the start of the race. That's 268. That was Bertram Lau from Kamlung. But everybody else has gone around the first lap and completed it, continues on their way. Now they're settling into race pace. They've got the feel of the circuit, and we're going to see which cars can work their way forward. And certainly car 211 doing a decent job in picking up. That's Gavin Huang. So just to go through the classes, it's a pro class leader, that's Dan Wells. It's a Pro-Am in 3rd position, that's Jasmine Jafar. Car 277, Stephen Shiji Hong, Chinese driver for the Madness Racing team, leading the Am class. And the LC class, Superchai Weeraborwampong, down in 13th position overall. He's the head of a 4-car queue in the Lamborghini Cup class. So on this lap, yeah, the lead being extended by Dan Wells. He's 1.8 seconds clear now. That's quite a thing in the first 2 sectors to gain nearly half a second. And in behind 277 and 288, a pair of teammates there running for the Madness Racing team. A bit of pride at stake, but this is tactical here. Where is the move going to come? Because you can be sure that 288 is pressing on with great intent, and that's Andre Couto, the Macanese driver with so much experience in single-seaters and then GTs and Super Trofeo cars for many, many years. But his job is not necessarily to get ahead. His job is to give as much of a cushion as he can to his teammate when he comes in to hand over later in the race. But it's had huge success in the Pro-Am class, winning 1, 2, 3, 4 so far 6 times in the first 10 races across the first 5 rounds. So they're consistent as a pair. That's what they're focusing on.
Yeah, consistency is everything in a championship. You just have to be scoring points every chance you get. You know, you're bound to have 1 or 2 bad races. That's just the law of averages. So you just need to make sure when you can and you're on a good day, you capitalise on it. Okay, and what do you do if someone's attacking you? Do you risk holding them off? In this case, Andre Couto, all that experience, he's going, no, you come through if you want that position. And that's Changwoo Lee, who's in a different class. He's in the AM class. That's interesting. Fastest lap of the race is not Dan Wells who's leading. In fact, his margin has come down to 1.7 seconds because it's the driver in second who's been closing in. And 251 has gone for a spin. Arrows Racing, that's Johnson Huang. And I'm afraid, again, we talked about gravel, how it contains car. He's coming backwards from the right-hand side of the screen, facing the wrong way, almost knee-deep in the gravel. That is not something you'll drive out. That's a tow out. That's game over. When you're in the gravel and you need assistance, that's the end of your race.
Okay, and that's at turn 8. You've gone through the hairpin at the end of the infield straight. You've gone through the fast left flick at turn 7. Turn 8's that little bit tighter, and it's actually a really tricky corner because you're very soon setting it up for what follows at turn 9, and just when your tail starts to go round, and then you go with it. So very unfortunate there.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the conditions, like we said already.
Safety car being deployed, and we're riding on board with it. Bang on cue there. So the Lamborghini safety car takes us around. This is the pit exit, joining the track there, just at the point of turn 1, waiting for the field to come through. He'll pick that up, but he's waiting. And our lead car, which is of course still Dan Wells, 1.7 seconds clear. Car 265, there it is for DW Evans GT. The field will tuck in behind him. So the first 3 cars were well clear, and Jasmine Jafar, the white and yellow car, started from pole position, was fourth by the time they got to turn 2, and did well to get up into 3rd place and showed the pace you'd expected from him. He's pulled clear of Andre Couto, but we saw Couto in that really tight battle with his Madness Racing teammate. Here they come down the start-finish straight. The safety car will get a rolling from pit lane exit, and here are 1st, 2nd and 3rd runners.
Yeah, the safety car can be quite nice sometimes. For Jasmine Jafar, it's like a reset. He's got his rhythm going now. The gap's closed, so when we go green again, he's right on the pack and he's ready to attack. For Dan Wells, it's annoying. He's built up this lead and he's lost it, but then why not do the same again? Get out there, carry on pushing. But obviously, you are then open to attacks because the field is back together.
No, it's a real yin and yang game. Here we are. This is the field going behind our commentary box. That's from turn 4 up to turn 5. Then they follow the safety car. Around it goes to the right. This is the point where the drivers really need to get their exit nailed, because it leads on to the longest straight of the circuit, which runs all the way down from turn 5 to turn 6, which is the right-hand hairpin. And the circuit nestles beautifully in the rolling hills here, which makes for some great overtaking positions, advantage points. Okay, well, I've heard a mic open. That means Marietta is down in the pit lanes. Marietta, what have you got for us?
I'm with Jonathan Chikoto to recap here. Landed here in Jerez, P3 in the full standings. A very experienced driver in Super Trofeo. Jonathan, first of all, we have already seen some incidents so far. How are you expecting conditions to be out there? How tricky is it really out there?
For sure, it will be very tricky, yes. I mean, I don't know really what to expect. For sure, the track will become drier and drier lap by lap. So it was a good decision to put the slick tires. Of course, my teammate has to suffer a little bit in the beginning, but then conditions will be more for dry, and so lap by lap it will get better.
And how has your mindset coming into this weekend been? You guys arrived here at P3 in the standings, and how are you feeling your season so far?
The mindset is not any different to any other race. The goal is always to win, regardless of the position of the championship. So it will be tough, because especially the European guys have some quite strong competitors. So I will know more during the World Finals, since we're still at the Asian round.
And do you think you can help your car to be up front a bit more when you take it to the track with your experience?
Yes, that's the goal. We're now running P6, so I have 5 cars ahead of me to overtake.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Marietta. Good to hear from Jonathan Chikoto. And drivers don't like to do complicated maths, but that's very simple maths, isn't it? We've got these many cars to overtake. That's visual. Sometimes you have to keep things simple.
Yeah, I think sometimes you find this when you get interviewed as a driver. Obviously, you guys doing commentary and interviewing, you have time to fill and slots to fill, but as a driver, you want to win. You always want to win. You always want the maximum points, and if you keep it simple and have that mindset, then you're not going to be far away from where you need to be.
No, exactly. So never like to see a car dragged away from the circuit, but this one having a little bit of a bowing to the camera there. Car 251, the one that went around Arrows Racing. Johnson Twang, driver from Taipei. And the crew, the marshal's doing a good job to get that out of the way as quickly as possible. We're clearly going to have another lap behind the safety car. We'll keep our eye on the light bar on the roof of the car, and when the lights go out, which they will do with half a lap to go if it's this time around, but I wouldn't like to guess if there's going to be one further lap. But for the starting drivers, it eats into their racing time, but they've all got to be focused on what they do when we go racing again. And interesting hearing there from Jonathan Chikoto about his views about, it's important, his to feel it's drying out. Now look, from pole position, Jazeman Jaafar really didn't quite hook it up. Brilliant start from Charles Leong to take the lead. He then had a problem going out of turn 1 and the tail wagged the dog. He's in front going in, and the yellow-white car from Jazeman Jaafar is suddenly challenged. Looks like he's fallen just to behind Dan Wells, who comes through in the blue and black car, but then he got monstered by one of the Madness Racing Team cars of Andre Couto coming around the outside in turn 1. But at this point, it's still Leong leading the race, but as he went through the corner, drifted to the edge, got to the curbing. Dan Wells is committed to the outside. Look, the red and black car, look, the tail comes around, momentum goes, and Dan Wells says, I thank you very much, and through he goes. But neat, tidy, and nobody in the turn 1 gravel. That was a good job on a greasy track. I hope he's watching the live timing down on the pit wall. You've got a job to do later in the race, but just to point out, it's a 50-minute race. You can see from the clock we have just under 35 minutes remaining. The pit window normally opens between a lap 30 minutes to go and 20 minutes to go. And I think for quite a few of the drivers, well, if you're driving solo, you're coming in to change yourself. This is what they're looking at, of course, on the wall. What's the weather doing? Well, it's coming up from the southwest, blowing through. I think we're going to be largely lucky. And there's the message, safety car in this lap. Let's go racing again. So do you keep your starting driver out as long as possible, close to the end of this window, A, to give them a bit more racing time, but B, to be more sure about the weather conditions for the final 20 or so minutes in the race. So they're not watching videos on their phones. They're looking at every graphic you can possibly imagine just to find an advantage when they get in. They don't want to make a fool of themselves. They want to get out there. And as we heard from Jonathan Tricotto, they want to win. 4 classes, and Dan Wells leading the race. He's leading the Pro class. 3rd place is the leading Pro-Am car. That's Jazeman Jaafar, the yellow and white car at the background of the shot. Leading Am driver is car 263. That's Chang Wu, or Brian Lee as he likes to be called. And the leading car in 12th place overall in the Lamborghini class is Kuma Prabhakaran, and he isn't so well placed in that championship, but he's leading a train of 4 cars, and of course he's got Superchai Weeraborbonpong tucked in behind, so we'll wait to see what he can do. Safety car in, and Dan Wells has backed the field up. He's giving himself enough thinking time, as much as he possibly can get. So this is coming out of turn 14, a fairly rapid right-hander, but it's what happens on the exit of here. Of course, the car leading this race right now cannot be passed until they've passed the start-finish line. There's a very short distance between there and turn 1, which means it's going to be super, super tricky for Charles Leong if he's going to try and make a move. Is it the wise place to do? Is it better to wait until you get down the back straight and maybe make a move into the hairpin? Tidy start from Dan Wells, not so good from Jazeman Jaafar in 3rd place. He's dropped off, but he's in Pro-Am. He doesn't have to fight these people.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably just being a bit sensible, worrying about what, you know, the variables he can control, which is the Pro-Am race. There's no point fighting. Yes, you want to get overall results if you can.
Now, what you don't want to do is possibly what nearly happened there. Charles Leong, he sort of had to think about it and found himself carrying on a little bit as he went into turn 2. He collected it all over again. This is the battle for the lead of the race. Bear in mind, before we had the safety car, it went out to 1.8 seconds, started to come down a little bit, and Charles Leong set the fastest lap of the race so far. And is he about to trade paint? Well, that is neat, that is tidy, and that is committed. Charles Leong takes the lead of the race. And what did his co-driver Miki Koyama say on the grid? We're going to win.
Yeah, they certainly seemed confident on the grid, and that was an absolutely fantastic move. Not the sort of normal place you'd see a pass. You know, normally you'd line it up and get a good slipstream down into turn 6. So maybe Dan just caught a bit of water and ran a bit wide, and he saw an opportunity and pounced.
I think so. I think he was. I think the way I look at it, they haven't won a race this year. They've been on the podium almost every race, Miki Koyama and Charles Leong. And I think he just thought, well, I'm going for it. This is my opportunity. And I really think it. Certainly looking at the way he's throwing the car out, he's prepared to just push that little bit harder. And as we saw, just going out of turn 8, still, if you run a little bit wide, the track is still kicking up a bit of spray for them. But when you're on the racing line, it's not too bad. Right, tail wagging a little bit on Dan Wells as he chase, but you just don't want to be using the curbs at the moment. So with his experience, he tucks it back in. But you can see there, they really have to twist their way through that little chicane, turns 11, 12, and 13. Really positive lap there from our new race leader, Charles Leong. He's obviously likes blue as a colour. Well, that is so lucky for him and the car running in 5th place that there's a little more grip further out. Okay, not as much grip as they thought going into turn 15. Now, remember that for next time round.
Yeah, definitely. There's maybe someone's dragged some water from one of the curves, or there's just a patch that they haven't driven on yet and just gone in a little bit deep. And with these cars with ABS, you just get some ABS intervention and, you know, can force you wide. You don't lock up and damage the tyres, but you can still run wide.
Explain that in layman's terms. ABS intervention. Oh my word!
Wow.
The bravery award definitely goes to our race leader Charles Leong at the moment. Fastest lap of the race, and I said he's hanging it out. He really is. He's taking this car by the scruff of its neck. This is bold.
Yeah. So ABS is basically a system that all road cars have now, is to stop the brakes locking. So when you have ABS intervention, the sensors are picking up that you're going to lock up a brake disc, and that means the tyre is going to scrape across the surface of the track, causing a flat spot, which is not what you want. So basically the brake pads will very quickly go on and off, and from a driver's point of view, the pedal will vibrate, and the whole car is vibrating because it's basically fighting you, saying no, you can't have the full potential of the brakes, because otherwise you're going to lock up. So these are controls that the drivers have on the steering wheel. You can adjust how much they intervene. I believe they're 1 to 10 or 1 to 9. You've got that, and also traction control. So these are all things you can adjust while driving. In these conditions, you will definitely be adjusting these every couple of laps as the grip improves.
Yeah, this is one of the many things. TV cameras always make things look brighter than they are. Looking out of our window, it seems quite dark. We have tinted windows, but I sense there's a bit more light in the sky at the moment. Andre Couto here, pushing on in 4th place, the driver from Macau. He's getting quite close to the other car that's up at the front end, the Pro-Am class, which is, of course, Jasmine Yafar, who started from pole position. So this is on board with the driver in 4th place. It's always interesting, Jack, when you look at a driver's eyes. You know, some famous, we used to say Mirko Bortolotti never blinks. When, you know, you can't hide in a car when there's a camera, but the level of focus and concentration is just extraordinary.
Yeah, when you're driving, you know, and you're in that zone, nothing, you know, you could get in the car with the worst headache in the world, and as soon as the green flag drops, you don't even know. Nothing outside of that field of vision is important.
Right, into the pits, the pit window is open, and the first one to come in, it's a sensible pit stop. The famous Chicotto helmet in the background, white with those 2 red lines that come from the tail to the fore. That means Jonathan Chicotto about to take over. So Gavin Huang decided, you know, I'm not at the sharp end of the field, but I know a man who might get us there. And of course, they have been had a very good season. They're sitting 3rd in the championships. They need every point they can get. They came here, they got the pole point for tomorrow's race, which gives them a 99-point score, but the race championship leader is on 114. There is only a maximum 15 points left to play for in this race, and then 16 tomorrow, 1 for pole, which he's already got. So it's small numbers, but they really need to grab every point they can.
Yeah, it can be quite tactical, the driver change pit window. If you're in a Pro-Am car, you're always going to stop to get your Pro in the car as soon as possible, or leave them out as long as possible. You know, if you're in an AM car, you can kind of do whatever you want. You're generally going to try and leave your fastest driver out for as long as possible, whether that's 1st or 2nd stint. That's just, you know, you want to finish that 50-minute race in the quickest time as possible.
So when you know, they're nominated before the start of the meeting. Driver 1 starts the first race, sets the qualifying time for the first race, and driver 2 does the same for the second race. But when your pro driver is the one who's out in a session when the safety car comes out, you're losing their advantage. So you definitely leave them out as long as you possibly can. Another fastest lap. Okay, the track is definitely dry. We saw, I think, 1 minute 50, low 1 minute 56s in the qualifying session just before this. There was a debate, you know, how they were getting those slick tyres to work. We know the front runners here are on slicks, and the way that Charles Leong is driving, he's clearly on slicks. He's struggling for grip, but it's not denting his attack. He's pushing, and I think Iron Links Theodore Racing should be really rather excited with what they're seeing here. And if you could beat Dan Wells, that's a big feather in your cap. Dan has had so much success in Lamborghinis over the years, and again, he's had a prodigious season. Dan, for DW Evans, he's scored 3 wins thus far, the most recent coming the second of the 2 races at Shanghai in the middle of September. That was round 5 of the championship. This is round 6, and at each of those rounds you have 2 races. So this is the 11th race of the season, and certainly Dan Wells has been scoring aplenty. That's why he's leading the championship, 114 points, and the crew in 2nd place are leading them today, so they could take a 3-point bite if they manage to win this race, and Dan Wells stays with his teammate Emilian Card down in 2nd. 3, will it be enough? It helps, but they really need someone else to come up and get ahead of Dan Wells if you're in the camp of Leong and Koyama. Koyama still to come, 1 or 2 female races in the field.
Yeah, great to see the girls getting in there, getting stuck in. It's obviously in more recent years, it's a lot more common, and it's really amazing now that it's not really, oh, you're a girl racer, you're just part of it, you know, get stuck in and mix it with the boys and, you know, push on. I love to see it.
No, it's almost something you don't need to recognise anymore, which is fantastic. Right, Dan Wells, well, we can recognise his talents. And 283 sitting in the pit lane right now. We're really working through the runners who do need to come in. And that's Dr. Marr. He's one of the drivers running solo, so he has an extra 3 minutes, I think not, 3 seconds at a standstill in the pit stop. And then it's time to blast off. It's always interesting to see the nerves in the pit. A driver, you probably don't know half the stuff you do when you're waiting to take over, bouncing around on the balls of your feet, doing little bits of limbering up, or even just calming right down. Now, Dan Wells is fighting back. The gap has come down to 3/4 of a second. Certainly, once we had Charles Leong take the lead race, he did seem to pull clear, but he was taking some fairly major, bold risks. And Dan Wells, much smoother giving chase, not going over the curves, where certainly Leong is doing that at every single corner. Turn 4, there they are, and again, you're okay, but it is diminishing returns if you go out over the curbing. And then this is turn 5, you turn to the right, this is the corner where the lead changed almost at exactly that point, but having lost the lead, Dan Wells now fighting back, but actually a very good exit from the corner there from our race leader. May be able to not only gain a 1/10 of a second, but just reduce the aerodynamic tow that he'd be providing if Dan Wells was tucked under his wing. So that was a good exit, and it was worth it.
Definitely, it's that's the sort of place you want to really, if you're leading the race, focus on getting a clean exit, because you don't want the guy behind getting the slipstream and having a chance to attack you into turn 6.
Ever the way. It's a game of chess in so many ways, but you sort of play with fewer pieces, I think, when a track's greasy. When you go out, it's a bit like going on a golf course and realising you're not very good with your drivers on a windy day, or whatever, any day with the day at the end of it. You know, you choose your attack accordingly. Fewer tools to play with, but really starting to sense that Dan Wells is on the hunt here now. Just pushing that little bit harder. Quite a lot of gravel on the track there. Someone, as you can see, has run through the gravel and do the thing that everyone else hates. They then bring it back on the circuit to share it with their friends. And you could be having a perfectly good race, Jack, and then suddenly, oh my word, I've got an excuse. Second time we've seen this. Our race leader, Charles Leong, running too deep into the final corner. The car behind Dan Wells is pitting to hand over to Emilion Card, but certainly pressing on and almost making a mistake, Charles Leong. But you know, there always is that thing. You press. Always want to be quick on your in-lap, but so many drivers actually just push that little bit too hard on the in-lap, and then suddenly the 10th you gained, you've lost a whole lot more. Let's not wish that on our race leader, but I would expect, as we've only got 3 minutes until the pit window will be metaphorically slammed shut, for him to come in and hand over to Miki Koyama.
Yeah, so Emilion Card will have to be really on it on this outlap. They were less than a second apart, so if he can nail the outlap, then he could take the lead. You know, it's obviously in a couple of laps once the leading car's also stopped. It obviously all resets and then everyone's back where they should be. But this first couple of laps out the pits is absolutely crucial, and is a place where you can lose a lot of time if you're not switched on as you leave the pits.
Yeah, and of course all the drivers who are doing the second stint, driver 2 in each of these cars, would have been watching every screen they could and looked at every corner. If they can't just afford to be bouncing up in the pit lane waiting to go in. They've got to see where the moisture is, and as we spotted a lap ago, there's gravel on the track, and I think turn number 8, I think it is, it's sitting there to catch them out. Right, still pressing on, still setting fastest laps, 1 minute 55.5. That means it's come down 2.5 seconds in terms of pace, 2.6 seconds in the course of the last 3 laps. So it's getting faster and faster, but surely the pit window, he cannot afford to come around one more time. He's got to dive in the pits, and then how slick can that pit stop be? Minimum time is 86 seconds. If you go out far sooner than that, you're going to pick up a penalty, so you don't want to be doing that. No. Again, still lots of gravel on the track there, that same point. And Charles Leong has had a really good race. He's been bold, he's been positive, he's held the moments when his Huracan has wanted to keep on sliding, and now he dives into pit in. He came in, he's crossed the white line, and he had basically 1.5 minutes remaining, so no way he could have done another lap. No. But he's done the maximum amount of time on the difficult circuit. He's handing it over now to Miki Koyama to see what she can do. And they've had a really strong season so far. No wins. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4 second places, a handful of thirds, but this win will be really important. Will it be today? Will it be tomorrow? Will it be next year? But this is a chance for Miki Koyama. There she is, going to the door of the car. And I think Well, let's go down because Dan Wells has got out of the car that was chasing. He's with Marietta.
Dan, can you tell us about your commitment in that stint?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one. Tricky with the wet-dry call. On the wets, I think with hindsight, with the safety car and everything, the wet was probably the right call. But everyone was going on the slicks. We made a decision as a team to go onto the slick tyre. We'll see how it pays out at the end of the race, but had a good battle with Charles, really fun, clean race. And I had the pace at the beginning, but when you're following, it's a little bit easier. You can see everything, and he capitalised on that, but then I came back. We had a good battle, and we'll see where we end up at the end of the race.
I mean, obviously, car 32 hasn't had a win yet. They really want to go for it.
Yeah, we've had 3 this year to their 0, hoping we can keep it that way. But you never know what can happen. It's racing. Great to be here in Jerez, and we'll see how we go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marietta. And interesting, you don't normally see an Asian series driver steaming when he gets out of a car. That's because it's much cooler than they're expected. They normally get out hot and sweaty in Asia. But that was a good stint. And I think a very important point there was the fact that the drivers did the opening stint, which is the majority on slicks. Majority went out on slicks. They had to hang in there. They had to be bold, knowing it would pay off later in the race, hoping the track would be drier. But the number of slips and slides you don't normally see when you're on a dry track, of course, with the Super Trofeos, but that's why it's better to have your pro driver in the first stint.
Yeah, definitely. In those conditions, you want someone who's got the experience with, you know, we've got a spin there at the coming out the last corner, I believe, is that?
Yeah, it is.
And another.
It's a tango. It's a bit of a rotation. So that's Thomas Yu Lee, who's disappeared from our shot. He will come. Oh, he's on the behind. So final corner, I would reckon one of those went too deep into the corner and the other one had to take evasive action, and that was just across the nose of Miki Koyama. I think we're looking at Miki. Is she going to be in the lead of the race, or will it be Emilion Card? Oh dear, that's a case of driving to the edge of the circuit and going beyond, and that's the sister car, and that's American racer Thomas Yu Lee. We saw him standing in the pit lane looking on. He took over from Nicholas Bertolatti, his Finnish teammate.
That's dangerous, right on the racing line. So hopefully everyone's paying attention to the yellow flags.
Yeah, well, they've got clear line of sight of the flags. They come up to turn 15, which is the left-hand hairpin, but I thought the black car had got going again. I thought it was just... let's take a look at how it happened. So, spinning on his own. Now, how did the other car become involved? Or did he have to avoid this one when it was trying to rotate around?
Yeah, I think so.
So, Thomas Lee in... You know what? No, he has had an eye on identical problem there, so really unfortunate. A couple of races slightly interrupted, but this is very much interrupted for Thomas Lee there, sitting in the gravel. Keep an eye, safety car. I was looking at the bar in the top left of the screen. Will it go from green to yellow? So what that means is Miki Koyama was leading by, she's just coming down the start finish straight shortly. She was leading by nearly 5 seconds. Of course that would have closed because Emilion Card goes past now. Okay, the gap between them is down to about 1.5 seconds, waiting for confirmation of that, but they have to slow down. They're just going to come into the rear of our shot here behind the safety car. 1.99, let's call it 2 seconds between friends there. Yeah. But one suspected that Emilion Card would be hunting down Miki Koyama, and on his outlap he did a really good job. But he did, Koyama pitted or took over a lap later, so Emilion Card of course was more in the groove, but his lap time 2 minutes 2. And actually the lap time for Miki Koyama, of course it's slower because she was coming out of the pits. I was going to say she wasn't 10 seconds slower. That was the gap between them last time around. But they're well clear of the driver, the Malaysian driver, who's Selim Rafiq, who's moved up into 3rd place, taking over from Jassim and Jafar. So our top order is as it was before the cars came in for their mandatory pit stop. However, what have we got left on the clock? 17 minutes. Those laps are going to feel slow because they're going to be behind the safety car. How quickly can the car that's stuck in the gravel at the final corner, Thomas Yu Lee's car, be cleared? And we'll go racing again. Well, let's go down because Marietta is as busy as the marshals. Marietta.
Well, we have more and more women competing in Super Trofeo, and we love that. And one of them is Kali from Thailand, who is, by the way, P2 in the standings in Super Trofeo Asia. Can you tell us about your stint out there today?
Yeah, for first race, the condition is wet, right? And a little bit difficult for us to control the car. Yeah, but we try our best to do the best, yeah.
You're second in the standings. You are having a very good year so far. How are you feeling with your season?
We have to fight till the end. About round 6, race 1 and race 2, we have to got the podium, and then we fight to be the first on the championship. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Marietta down there. And, you know, actually looking at someone like Kat Lee as she races, which is easier to say than Natalie Watanathalavugu. I made a bit of a mistake at the end of that one. But you know, she hasn't got a great deal of experience. She's really stepped up. Her first season in this championship, this will definitely be a circuit she hasn't raced on, and the track was greasy. So she did a really, really good job. And, of course, all the teams were debating about how they'd start the race. On wet tyres, on dry tyres. Safe choice was to go, of course, on treaded tyres. But, of course, if you could bear that first stint, not make mistakes, then you'd be laughing, as long as it didn't start raining. And the key to me, Jack, before the race, there was no wind above the circuit. I reckon we'd be good at least for the next hour. It looks as though we're getting there. It's brightening up behind us, slightly lighter above the pits. People standing in the grandstands and on the top of the roof without hoods up, so that's a good sign. Safety car still leading us around. So Miki Koyama leading in 232, which is one of the Iron League's Theodore racing cars. It's red and it's white, it's leading the race. But Emilian Card, you have to watch. He taken over from championship leader Dan Wells. He's in 265 from DW Evans GT. They've had a lot of success. There's the gravel out on the circuit. Drivers should be going on the inside of that, but if you run a little bit wide, then that would be like going onto roller skates and off to the edge. But everyone's aware of that. It's been there and out. But that's the trouble. The driver in stint 1 is aware of it. Do they remember to mention it to the driver in stint 2, or will that catch them out? Again, so much knowledge has to be passed on very, very quickly at a driver change.
In all honesty, when you do the driver change, you tell your teammate the bare minimum. You tell them how the balance of the car, and really you rely on your teammate to just go and get a feel for it in the first lap. Little bits like that, gravel on the, if there was like oil on the track, yes, but if there's bits of gravel, you like to think your teammate's driving on the correct lines and you haven't got to say, oh, there's gravel on the outside, because it's quite normal.
Okay, again, great work, Jack, I must say, from the marshals. They've managed to rescue Thomas Yu Lee, the car in suspended tow, so no points coming their way in race 1 of the final round of the 2024 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. Great shot down the pit lane in the goggles there, but, right, what's leading the race? Of course, it's a Lamborghini.
Matteo Milani.
There we have him, leading him around. Safety car still going. Clock continues to tick down. We started with 50 minutes on the clock.
This safety car will really benefit 211 Johnny Giacotto, because he's closed the gap, although he's in 5th. And like I say, it's not easy to pass around here. When it does go green, he's going to have a 4 or 5 lap dash to, you know, go full send. And I know Johnny quite well. He's certainly going to be pushing 110% to be trying to get that podium. You can see those eyes are looking pretty focused and ready to go.
Again, it's that sort of visualization as well. He's not just thinking about what he's seeing. It's like when you see a ski racer before the start of a downhill in the hut. They just focus on the imagined muscle movement you need into the various corners. Of course, as we've said before, we'll say again, over the course of this World Finals meeting, this is a very narrow circuit. And for the drivers, they go out of turn 5, the descent along the longest straight down to turn 6, which is the right-hand hairpin. Safety car lights are flashing. I hope the message is going through that the car has been cleared from the gravel on the outside of the exit of turn 15. We're looking back from the safety car. You can see the tower that's such a feature of the Jerez circuit just off on the left-hand side. Right, if you're looking at the screen, the graphics on the left, the 2 cars in first and second position have a red flash. That means they're in the pro class. Then, well, let's go down to the pits because we have news, and Marietta pouncing like a leopard.
So far, P2 on track in the AM category. Harry Lee, this is his teammate, Steve Hong. Steve, tell us about how your team is doing so far today.
Yeah, for my car, I got a very dramatic start, and it's very tricky condition. The whole morning wet, and before 10 minutes start, already starting dry. So everyone changes slick tires. Definitely is very tough race at the beginning. So luckily I got a very good start. No any crash, something. Yeah. So I bring the car back to my teammate. Then after see how he's performed. Yeah.
So far, Harry is P2 on track. Do you think he can hold that position? Can you guys be on the podium at the end of this race?
Yeah, I hope he can hold the pace. Yeah, because we still chase the overall champion AM class. So, yeah, I think handle that. Then bring the car back. We can get on the podium. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Marietta, with Stephen Hong, and he's going to find out what's going to happen very soon because the safety car is withdrawn. We're going to go racing with about 10.5 minutes remaining. Miki Koyama leading the race at the front of the queue, tucked in behind French racer Emilian Card, tucked in behind him Senem Rafik, and looking for the gaps, but they're not coming until they cross the line.
So we've got a back marker actually fourth in the queue, so this is going to be potentially causing issues for Johnny Cecotto and car 288. Yeah, as you see, there's a big gap, which is quite frustrating, but they're already past now.
Yeah, they're burst past. It's always a mix, and in fact, well done to the driver at the tail of the queue there. I think that's Dr. Ma, and he kept out of the way, but the car you need to look for with Johnny Cecotto is car 211 from Arrows Racing, running in fourth place, being harried at the moment, very nicely indeed, being pushed around by the leader in the AM class, and that's Brian Lee. We heard from him on the grid, and neat and tidy for the first group, but certainly for Cecotto that was important to get that pass in and not be compromised, because you never know. Oh, well, talk about moves at the front. I expected something to come quite soon, and Miki Koyama has been passed really very easily there by Emilian Card, but she's not backing off around the outside at turn 5, and she's kept there. She's going to be on the wrong line when they get down to the hairpin at the end of the straight, but she's got her nose in front. I expected she had to come off the power a little bit, but that is bold. But now she's gone slightly deep into turn 6 there. Who's going to be in front? Well, full march to Miki Koyama. She got herself out of line at turn 5, went deep into turn 6, but did one thing, and that's kept her foot down as hard as she possibly could, and she's pulled away a little bit to hold position. But Emilian Card, he's doing what you talked about earlier, Jack. He's looking for where she's strong and where she's not as strong, and all along they've got Jonathan Cecotto coming through, and he's not the stand on ceremony. Is he going to pass them both before turn 15? Let's find out, but he doesn't want to take too many risks. He's on the outside line, which puts you on the curves, which are still going to be greasier than track. Well, no problem at all. Emilian Card has been passed. And now Miki Koyama is almost putting him on the grass. Into the really tight section. And
wow.
You know what? You are not Nostradamus, but you're doing a very good job. You said he'd work his way through. Well, he didn't hang around. I said, would he pass by the end of the lap? I thought into turn 15. They haven't only got to turn 14 now, and he's not only got past our erstwhile leaders, he has put them as small specks in his rearview mirror. That has been a fantastic half lap of racing.
Yeah, like I said, we had sort of 10 minutes to go. I thought it'd be a bit of a, furious kind of 5 laps for Johnny, but to do it in the first lap, that's very impressive. And he used his ability there in the real technical part of the track just to, pick the right line and go on the outside to then have the inside at the left, and job done.
It's also just having the ultimate confidence in what level of grip you can expect, what level of grip you can get away with. Just saw Miki Koyama being passed on the start-finish straight, so she started the lap, the restart effectively when the safety car withdrew in the lead of the race. Was expected to be hunted by Emilian Card, did a fantastic defensive job through 3 or 4 corners, but Jonathan Cecotto was not taking no for an answer. And he passed him on one of the most technical part of the circuit, coming to the end of the second of the 3 sectors, got the job done round the outside, and is driving away. In fact, you know what? 4.3 seconds clear by the time he got to the start-finish line, bearing in mind he only finished the move at about turn 11 before that. That was quite outstanding, and he should be able to pull on clear, and that will certainly boost the championship challenge for his crew. They came here third. They're the outliers in this. They've got to win today, win tomorrow to have any real chance. And in behind, the fighting is getting very busy indeed, because Brian Lee in the black and white car is chasing Miki Koyama, who's now really having to hang on. And look how Emilian Card, she fought him, she beat him on the previous lap, then got past, and already she's fallen back about 3 seconds. But instead of being able to concentrate on chasing back after him, I'm afraid for Miki Koyama, still looking for that elusive win, and she's made a little bit of a slip up there, Jack. She goes very deep into a lot of the corners. Maybe she thinks there's more grip than there is, and she keeps getting surprised, but actually she does turn it in very well from that deep line.
Yeah, sometimes with corners you can have different approaches can work. You can go in a bit deeper, carry more speed in. Other people like to go in a bit tighter, maybe a bit later on the brakes, and really work, have to use the power to drive off the corner instead of rolling the speed through. Sometimes that's just driving style. Certain driving styles suit certain tracks better. Generally with Jerez, I think that's actually quite a good style, because it's a lot of long, fast flowing corners. It's quite good to keep that minimum rolling speed higher. Be a little bit more gentle on the brakes and kind of keep the car more stable. She does seem to be struggling a little bit now, but there's various things. Her teammate was very fast in the first stint. He could have been over pushing a little bit and taken the life out the tyres. This is the other thing with GT racing.
And now she has just got a little bit wide, and the leader in the AM class has gone sailing through. That Changwoo Brian Lee, as he likes to be called, driver from Korea for the SQDA Grit Motorsport team. But, oh, right, short pit stop for car 265. Is that our car running in second place? It most certainly is. That's Emilian Card, took over from Dan Wells.
2/10, that's not going to change anything, I don't think.
No, it's when you get... it's when in some championships it's also you drive in and stop for the 2/10 that you've exceeded by. But in this case, I don't think anything is going to come with 5.5 minutes remaining between Jonathan Chikotto and victory. Or who else is being pinged? Half a second. 208. That's Selim Rafiq. That was the car that leading Pro-Am now, but was the car that started from pole. Jasmine Jafar, and now Selim Rafiq. Small things, but they make quite a difference.
So with that, they've got their championship rivals, I believe, behind them at 1.4 seconds behind. Now, if I was the team leader of 288, I'd be on the radio saying, right, push like everything with everything you've got, because if you can find 1 second, you're actually going to, you know, at the end of the race, the result will be flipped. You've actually got that extra motivation because you haven't got to make the pass.
No, exactly so. So they came here leading the championship, the 288 crew. A great shot there showing the chicane. Hasn't always been used, but there we are. It's turns 11, 12 and 13, and then they go to turn 14 behind the paddock there. That's the pit building on the left, which sort of breaks up the flow and unfortunately can cause cars to go round. That's the car running in a... Was that Brian Lee? No, 277, slightly further down. We heard from the teammate Stephen Hong, and that's Harry He has rotated and gets it going all over again. And I'm just talking about, you know, it's a shame it sort of breaks the flow, but it does also mean another change of dynamic, and that just, again, shows the track is not properly dry yet. There's still a slipperiness to it. And, oh, wow, it's all happening again at the turn 15, the final corner, and that's car 295. How wet's the grass? Well, enough to spin it around at the exit, and Wen Jungxi getting that going again. So frustration for quite a lot of drivers at the final corner, and a warning for drivers who are competing later this morning. Next championship out is the North American Series. Now, was there a push and a shove when we had this spin? 277. Oh, well, there may have been a little bit of a
helping hand. I think he was already sliding and a little bit slow on the exit, and then he just got a little bit of a helping hand to finish the job.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good reading of it. I don't think the car in behind. Have we got another spin coming up? Let's have a look. It's such a... Oh yeah, okay. So better exit. Well, it's actually yeah, better exit for the car behind, doing what a racing driver should be doing, and then unfortunately the car in front just having a little bit of a sort of slower exit, and so they came together. And the law of physics, children, do pay attention in class, is what happened there. But for our race leader, Jonathan Chikotto, fastest lap of the race, 155.2, so only marginally faster than the laps in the first stint. But bear in mind, when he came out to start this stint, you know, the safety car soon came out, slowed them right down. But now, clear track, he's 11.7 seconds clear and stretching his legs. So certainly looks like a really, really strong result. Gamin Huang can watch this with great excitement from the pit lane, because he has no more to do and not a great deal more. Be this lap and one more, one would suggest. 2 minutes 45 on the clock, and he's lapping in 1 minute 55. So and where's everybody else? As he leaves the start-finish straight, the next best car is Emilian Card. He's got a slight cloud over him, but only a very small one for his pit stop infringement. And in the background, leading the AM class and running third overall, just looking so strong, is Changwoo Lee. He can tie up the championship here today. He has a 16-point advantage. If he takes the points for win, no one can topple him. So that'll take the pressure off. But of course, we want to win the class again tomorrow. But for an AM driver to be on the podium is very, very impressive indeed, and certainly deserves all the applause that he can get. In fact, he's been on the podium once before, but he's won his class almost every time out.
Yeah, clearly the dominant force in the AM category this year. So, you know, it's great to be rewarded as an AM driver to be on the overall podium. It's just, you know, absolute credit to him for doing a fantastic job this year.
Yeah, looking good. And in the space of the last lap, Jonathan Chikotto, our race leader, has pulled marginally further clear. He's just taken a second off his fastest lap, which was the lap before. So the track is drying. He's in the groove. He's got nobody around him. So, you know, ideal conditions for a racing driver. And it's certainly becoming a little bit lighter over the Circuito de Jerez here. It was very, very dark this morning. Weather forecast for the next 2 days is mixed, but getting brighter tomorrow. Probably a bit of sun and then For the World Finals on Saturday and Sunday, full sunshine and about 18 degrees air temperature. That'd be very comfortable and nice indeed. May actually go up to 21. I'm now just looking at a weather app, but we will take that. But you know what? I'm quite a fan of mixed conditions for drivers. It keeps them on their toes, sometimes on the grass, sometimes in the gravel. But it certainly made for an exciting race, and a lot of the cars were really because the teams took the decision before the start of the race, wet or slicks or treaded tyres. They went on slicks. They knew they'd gain an advantage to the race. And now with 50 seconds on the clock, round we go onto the final lap of the race. And that has been a masterclass from Jonathan Cecotto. Fastest lap. Oh, he's down by another second this time around. It goes down and down and down, as you would expect.
Yeah, he's up the road. He's fastest guy on track. And, yeah, the conditions obviously suiting him. They've got their car dialed in. He came here with, you know, obviously motivation to really push and try and finish the season strong, because really this weekend is like two parts. You have your end of the regional championship, or you know your actual championship that finishes, and then you reset. The slate is wiped clean and you start again for a one-off, 2 races, 110% push. It's kind of bin or win essentially. You know, you've got 2 races to do the business, and you know, it's a totally separate event from what we're seeing here on Thursday and Friday. Yeah, the target's the same, is to win, but there is the consequence of you don't want to waste all that's gone before you in a championship. Maybe you see the position to gain the points, a second or third or fourth or whatever, but it's for the overall crown. That will be sorted tomorrow, but in the case of the driver in third overall, my maths, if it's sufficiently decent, means this driver here, who's third overall, leading the AM class, should put his title in his back pocket. I think he's the only person who may be able to do that today. So Changwoo Lee races under the sort of pseudonym of Brian. Yeah, fantastic.
Just a really good, tidy run. He's just not taken too many risks. He's worked the tyres. Car in second place, a million card. There he is, car 265. There was a moment when they were slightly closing in, but Brian Lee actually did close in last time around. But, you know, these positions will not change on this lap. The clock has reached the end of 50 minutes. And our race leader, Jonathan Cecotto, not got too far to go now until he can cut to the checkered flag, and he does so right now out of the final corner. He accelerates down the start-finish straight. The flag is his, and it looks though he's in a private test session, because the next closest car will only now be coming into the final corner. And Wells' teammate, Dan Wells, leading the championship. Million card missed around, so he's sort of lost ground in the championship, but he's doing the job for his teammate there. The lights are flash.
Yeah, I'm sure Dan will be over the moon with that. It's great points. Okay, they've lost points to car 211, but they've got 1 race tomorrow. They know they've just got to finish in the top 2 or 3, and they've got the job done pretty much. The problem when you come into this last weekend is if you're a long way behind them, if it's any more than sort of 2 or 3 points, it's a lot of it is out of your control. You have to hope that someone else has a bad race, and when you're relying on luck like that, you know, you've already kind of lost the battle really, because it's a lot of it's down to the elements, and if anyone has any incidents, and you know, you can't rely on that.
No, very, very tight at the end there. Miki Kiyama just hanging on, being chased very, very hard by Kat Lee's teammate, Deshion Puakaruut, and he just about caught her, not quite, in the end up half a second down. And just to run through the classes, Jonathan Cecotto wins the race and the pro class. The AM class is won from 3rd place. That's very impressive from Changwoo Lee. The Pro-Am class from 6th place, Selim Rafiq, who was sharing with the pole starter Yasemin Jafar, and he won that quite comfortably. And the Lamborghini Cup class is the car crewed by 2 brothers, Haziq Zariel O and Harry Zariel O, who brought it home for Absolute Racing. They've got that job done, but today belonged to 211, to Jonathan Cecotto, who did the job and built on the work of Gamin Huang. Cars started on slick rubber, hoping the track would dry, and it certainly was slippery for the drivers in the first stint of the race. It did dry out, and boy, did the lap times come down once this driver got on board. Great to see the family helmet, white with those 2 red stripes coming up over the top, getting narrow as they go to the front, as was raced in by his father, multiple world motorcycle champion. Then he came over, raced in Formula 1, Johnny Cecotto, back in the 70s. And it's great, that bloodline. And it's very much been tied with the Super Trofeo. The various brothers have raced in the championship in Europe, in the States, and in Asia as well. But Jonathan Cecotto doing a great job. Emilian Card, well, he's helped his teammate Dan Wells, 2nd place for him. And welcome points to the championship leader, Dan Wells. And in 3rd place, here we have Changwoo Lee, an AM driver in 3rd place. Yep, that is a really outstanding run. It's a fantastic season up and down the pit lane. There's Jonathan Scotto already out of the car and looking very, very pleased with life. Gavin Huang shaking his hand. Thank you very much. Same again tomorrow. Yes, why not?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. It's easy to, you know, give all the credit to Johnny, but at the end of the day, Gavin's done the job. He's brought the car in one piece, no damage. He obviously had that spin on the outlap, so he recovered that. It's easy to lose your head in that situation, but you have to reset, get back on the money, do the job, and, you know, they've shown they're the strongest pairing today.
Right, well, Jonathan Cecotto was the driver who brought it home. He's down in the pit lane, and as soon as he's got his helmet off, we will go down and hear from him. We'll just channel a lot of noise into your ears, but we're going to throw down to Marietta Evans, who'll get any second now the words from our race winner.
Jonathan, we talked earlier in the pit lane about can you put that car at the top, and you made it happen.
Yeah, you asked me before the race my expectation. I said I have a few cars to overtake, and so I did. So not much more to add. What you've seen is what there is to see.
And Gavin, can you say some words about what your teammate did today?
I have no word. It is absolute crazy. He's a beast. This is all I can say. This is crazy. No words.
Well, guys, very well done in very tricky conditions today. Congratulations. These are our pro winners.
Thank you very much, Marietta. So that was Gavin Huang and the beast, Jonathan Cecotto. But the driver making the noise of a beast is this man here, Brian Lee. He came third overall. Not only did he get on the podium, he won the AM class as well, and he's got the title in the bag. He has wrapped it up with one race to go, and I think we can safely say he's enjoyed that last hour.
Yeah, there we go. Get the shot on the roof. That's a must when you win a championship. Yeah, fantastic. Sounds like he's had a great year all year, and it means tomorrow he can go in with absolutely zero pressure. The job is done. He can just enjoy it, soak it up, and try and get an overall podium again.
Well, second in the AM Championship last year, 2023, but very much number one today. He's coming down from the roof. He'll come down from the high a lot later. When the helmet is off, Marietta will jump in, but Championship 1. With one race still to go for Brian Lee, and as soon as, this is the thing, when you're so full of adrenaline, you probably can't undo his helmet right now.
If you can.
He's vibrating, and he's going to take his glasses off. He always have to do that. Helmet off, and I tell you what, there's going to be a massive smile on the face of Brian Lee, because he's got the title in the bag. He's an AM, he's on the podium, third overall, but very much first in his class. Let's hear his thoughts with Marietta.
Congratulations, you are our AM winner for Super Trofeo Asia. What's going through your mind right now?
Now, actually, past the 2 days, it was very unfortunately we had a lot of accidents, and also we changed the chassis something, yeah. But finally, absolutely made it, everything, and also I'm really happy to learn this really lovely circuit. So now, finally, I'm got the season champion of 2024 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy. Yeah.
And impressive effort, because you said to me before on the grid, I've never been at this racetrack,
yeah, sure.
Yet you finished P3 overall on a very difficult, challenging day.
Yeah, actually, as you already saw that surface is not that good. It's so slippery, but I spin many times before, so that's why I control the car at this kind of a situation. So I'm really happy anyway. Yeah, I'm really thankful for the absolute team, and also SQDA Green Motorsports, which is the car provided by Lamborghini Seoul. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy. Yeah.
Well, you are the definition of a dream come true. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Marietta, thank you very much. And the happiest man in the pit lane. Definitely, without doubt, and he remembered to also do that thing to mention his sponsors. So he's doing a professional racing driver's job. But, you know, it was tricky today, and I think we had a really, really good race. And full marks to the beast, Jonathan Cecotto, taking that win.
Yeah, I definitely would have, if I was a gambling man, would have put money on him at that safety car, 10 minutes to go, that he would have done that job, because I know him quite well. So kind of what was expected. But yeah, absolutely fantastic racing from the Asian guys. Just because it's a slightly smaller grid does not mean the racing isn't equally as good as America and Europe.
Well, look at that there. In the end, 22 seconds clear for Jonathan Cecotto, head of Emilian Card. Third place, an AM driver within half a minute. But working down, 3 of the 17 runners didn't make it to the finish. As you can see, Nicholas Pertolatti, Thomas Yuli, his teammate, was the one who put it in the gravel at turn 15. Lost a couple of others as well earlier on, but generally clean and tidy. A few spins, yes, it was a tricky circuit, but it's a busy day here, and we're almost ready for the next group of cars, the North American Series, to come out. But it's been, for the Asian Series, they've got one more race to go, and for those that want to tilt for ultimate glory, the World Finals will follow. But their first 50 minutes here at the Jerez circuit is now completed. A busy pit lane. The podium is up above. They will have their podium ceremony as well, and it's always a case at the end of a championship of getting the drivers to go to the podium, because they're so full of excitement. Hopefully, I can see Brian Leary still hugging people down, anybody can find down in the paddock. But when you've come to a circuit you don't know, it's only your second season in the championship, and you win the title. He was second in the AM class last year. This year he's first. He can enjoy tomorrow's races and the ones on Saturday and Sunday in the World Finals as well. So, you know, well done to him. But to our race winners, Gavin Huang and Jonathan Chicotto, the first one is in the bag. Can they do it again tomorrow? They started third in the championship, and let's see how it unfolds. And now let's just take a look back at the highlights. So now we're waiting for the podium after those highlights. Colour, speed, a couple of rotations, but may have all of that on the podium as well. Waiting, and of course the 4 classes. We've got the pros, we've got the pro-ams. The happiest podium of all for the only champion thus far in the AM, and then the Lamborghini Cup as well. And all these drivers have to do it all over again. This is, I have to remember the day of the week. It's Thursday here at Jerez de la Frontera. We're going to race all the way through until Sunday. Very shortly, it's just so quick fire. We've got the North American Series forming up, waiting to go at the start of their first of 2 races to decide their championships. They're coming up very, very soon indeed. But hopefully the people looking after the drivers, chasing them with sticks to get them up the stairs to the podium, we will have the drivers coming out very shortly indeed. As again, as with the Asian race, the drivers going out in the North American race are coming through the pit lane to gain an extra lap of experience of what the track is like. But for their advantage, it's much drier than it was when the drivers went out for this race, the first race, the Asian Series race. One more to go for the Asian Series drivers tomorrow. That's Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, the World Finals for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo for 2024. The first time here for 5 years. And it's always been a circuit very much enjoyed. But as we saw in that race, the overtaking can be done. It has to be meticulously planned. And we'll see how it unfolds on a drier track. It might be a little bit harder. But for these drivers, the gamble before the start of the race, Jack Bartholomew, was start on wets, start on slicks. The bunch of the front runners went for slicks and had to hang on. And it was tricky.
Yeah, I think they all went slicks in the end. Sometimes with that, you have to just follow the crowd. You know, you don't want to be the only one that goes wets and find you wrong. But yeah, it involved hanging on a little bit for those early laps as the track started to come towards the slick tyre and heat was generated.
They were fast on the track. They're not so quick getting up to the podium, but they have to put in the right order. And you know, as a racing driver, you're always full of adrenaline after races, lots of chat to be had. But for the people trying to organise the podium ceremony, there's a podium ceremony to be had. So you do need to be corralled and cajoled. But we know the identity of the people on that top step, Gavin Huang and Jonathan Chicotto, when they are called out.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. You've got potentially 12 or 15 different pairings sometimes. So, you know, if you had different podiums in every class, it could be up to I can't even do the maths on that. Was it 4 classes? It's about 18 people, all full of adrenaline, all hugging different people and running round. It's a nightmare trying to organise it.
No, it really is. But, you know, for a lot of the drivers, that moment when they're out there on the top step on the podium, it's the first time they can actually relax. Unless they were the drivers did the first part of a race in a 2-driver lineup and then they could watch. But they still can't relax until the checkered flag has fallen on their teammate. But, of course, you've got to send the messages home because it may be just coming up to what I call lunchtime in Spain. It's always lunchtime in my world. But, you know, certainly out in where a lot of these drivers come from, they're 7 or 8 hours behind here. So, you know, send the family the news that they've had a good race or a poor one, but they've got it all to do again tomorrow. Good to see, actually, it is definitely getting brighter. When we looked out over the pit lane before the start of the race, it was dark, dark clouds beyond the pits over the paddock, and now it's certainly what you just call a light grey day, not fully dark, so that's good. Fully dark on the podium, though, just waiting for those drivers to come out. And at any moment now, they will come out. But meanwhile, the North American Series drivers are moving around, and they are going to be, they're running around behind, out on the circuit, gaining a feel for it. They're coming around to start forming up on the grid. So it's very, very busy here at the Circuito de Jerez. Of course, they'll then go through their entire countdown and go into position. So, Jack, thank you very much for your help in this, and it's going to be quick chairs because Baptiste Moulin is coming in to talk through the North American Series race. But on your first commentary gig since karting, very well done.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see all you guys back tomorrow for Super Trofeo Asia Race 2 and then the Pro World Finals on Saturday and Sunday, so busy weekend for me as well.
Thank you very much, Jack, and if you could bring Baptiste into the number 2 seat, that will be great as well. So, the car's about to be moved away because, of course, the pit lane needs to be clear, but the podium ceremony is still expected on that balcony up above the pit lane. And it's very, very quick fire here. But for a lot of the drivers, they will have stories to tell because, of course, that track was very greasy when they went out, and they had to slip and slide but keep their cars on the black stuff. And predominantly they did that, and we had some great racing in that Asian Series race. They'll do it all over again tomorrow. So this is the first podium ceremony coming up. And I tell you what, we're going to go very quickly to the highlights, see what happened in race 1, and then we'll come back to the podium. First, the highlights. Well, each car is allowed 1 mechanic until the And so the drivers out on the podium, they've burst out onto so Gavin Huang and Jonathan Chicotto on the top step of the podium. Dan Wells, Emilian Card, second place, but Dan Wells, the championship leader, on the left of the podium. And then Charles Leong and Miki Koyama held on to take third in the pro class. They eventually were in fourth position overall in the charge to the finish. But certainly Jonathan Chicotto, brilliant drive when he took it over. As soon as the safety car withdrew, he not only worked his way to the front, but sprinted clear, set the fastest lap of the race. They hopefully will not spray the champagne too much because they've got to wear those suits again tomorrow and Saturday and on Sunday. But plenty of joy there. There's Dan Wells, stretched his championship lead, and Emilian Card alongside. So a bit of fun. Miki Koyama letting rip. Gavin Huang out there on the podium as well. And they've got to do it all over again. They will quickly go onto the roof of the, here's Miki Koyama coming in from behind. They'll watch this next race because, of course, every race you can watch, see how the track conditions change here on the Thursday at Jerez. It was raining overnight, the track was wet this morning, it dried out through the course of that race, but a few cars got the tail hanging out in that first race, but they controlled it very nicely indeed. And that's the Pro Podium. And there we have the 211, the car that came through to take victory in the race. Gavin Huang started it off, Jonathan Chicotto brought it in, and overall victory by 20+ seconds in the end. And here's the championship margin now. It's 126 to 115. We've got 16 points to play, so an 11-point advantage is very useful indeed for Dan Wells. But Miki Koyama and Charles Leong sitting there in second place, but only just. Jonathan Chicotto and Gavin Huang, that move today, that victory today, moved them not up a position, but a whole lot closer. So it's really close for second overall. But Dan Wells, has he got one hand on the championship trophy? Perhaps. He's got to take the points tomorrow. So we'll wait for that and see if he can manage it. And the second podium, this is the Pro-Am podium. And on the top step of that, Jasmine Jafar on the right-hand side of your screen, the 208 entry, and Selim Rafiq, fellow Malaysian, on the left. And the car was second in class, 288 Madness Racing Team, Andre Couteau and Jason Chen. And they were the only two that finished in that class. Some of the rivals actually ended up off the circuit in the gravel. So the only two pairs up on the podium for the Pro-Am podium here. Race 1 for Super Trofeo Asia. They've got another one tomorrow, but they're all very happy to be up there. Points in the bag. And certainly in the Pro-Am class, it's been very, very close indeed. So that one is not going to be tied up until after the last of their season races tomorrow. In fact, those two crews up there, or one of the crews up there, even on points when they arrived. But the team closing in was Selim Rafiq and Jasmine Jafar, but they really were an outside championship bet. They'd have to win both races with the others not managing it. So I think it's beyond them. But if they can take the class win, that is precisely what they came here to do. So the champagne is sprayed onto the tyres down beneath, unwittingly so. Their race is done for the Thursday here at Jerez. And it's going to be the turn of the North American Series very shortly indeed. But that's the Pro-Am podium.
Everybody in the Pro-Am category, good luck for tomorrow's racing. Now we're going to move swiftly along.
And then there we are. That's the car that won it for Arrows Racing. Jasmine Jafar and Selim Rafiq. Let's take a look at the championship positions now. So Andre Couteau, that second place today, and with his teammate Stephen Chen, that has put them on 130 points. They almost got one hand on the championship, but for the chasing Thomas Yu Lee, who'll be so frustrated, ended up in the gravel day today, no points for him. So that has suddenly really opened out the Pro-Am Championship battle. And the crew that was chasing today came home in second place of Jason Chen, I beg your pardon, not Fang Pin Chen, and Andre Couteau. Being consistent is also very, very important across the course of a championship. Now we're looking down at the AM podium, and the driver who comes out, the driver who's not stopped smiling, driver from Korea, Brian Lee, third overall today to win the AM class. Second place in the AM class was the crew from 209, that's Kat Lee and Dechathorn Puaka Ruul, and the car third on the podium today in the AM class was Hao Wen Lua and Jajun Song. So there they are. This is the AM class, but I think you really have to applaud the driver on the top step. Brian Lee did it all on his own, third overall, and the champion. He's the only person who's managed to nail a championship today, unless my maths has failed me. But this is the AM championship. He's got it in the bag with one race still to run. The final round of all the regional championships, the Asian Series, the North American Series, and the European Series will be tomorrow. All those other two series have their races today. A lot of cars coming here to play. 83 cars across the three championships. It really is bumper time for Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So again, going through the whole procedure. Changwon Lee, Brian Lee as he likes to be known, Korean driver, taking the championship and the AM honours here today. Head of the all-Thai crew in second place, and they're about to depart, and that will just leave the Lamborghini Cup runners to come out. But when you've done well, you get the champagne. So the noise of a packed grid of cars moving away for the North American Series rings out, but the ringing in the ears For the AM class runners, they're delighted with their run in race 1, and here is the winning car, 3rd place overall. SQDA Grit Motorsport, really, really strong run. Mixed conditions, and sometimes it's an advantage to have your start driver stay in through the race, and that was the case of Brian Lee. Changwoo Lee, 51 points to 132. He's 19 points clear. The maximum points anyone else could score would be 16 if they'd taken pole in the second qualifying session. It's beyond everybody else. So for Kat Lee, or better known as Natanidli Watanabalagul and Detathorn Puakarawut, they end up in 2nd place overall. But it's been a really good championship, and now the final podium of the quartet, if you will, is for the Lamborghini Cup class. 3rd place for the 271 crew, Superchai Weeraborn Pong on his own, Thai racer for Siam Gas Corsa. 2nd place for 233, which is one of the Iron Links Theodore racing cars, Kumar Brabakan, who also raced on his own. And then out onto the top step, 205, it's the brothers. It's Hazik and Harry Azariel O, run by Fortis Racing, by Absolute Racing. They're there on the top step, and that's the Lamborghini Cup class. Well, Kumar Brabakan's looking very happy on the bottom of your screen there. Figure on the left-hand side in the red racing boots. The trophy is being handed out by Dakota down there on the podium. And all smiles, this is the Lamborghini Cup class. They'll do it all over again tomorrow. For a lot of them, it was their first race here at Jerez, and they did it on a very, very tricky racing circuit because it was wet when they started and it dried out. They did a great job. And here is the winning car in the LC Cup class, car 205. And a great run for the Fortis Racing team by Absolute. And there they are, 153 points clear. In fact, they have now put their title in the bag as well, ahead of Superchai. So that is it from the Asian Series race. Come back and join us again for tomorrow. But if you're fans of the North American Series, that's coming right up.